God, just take me. There's no bolt of lightning. There's no strong gust of wind. There's no strong urge to jump. You don't care either. By the time I was 19 years old, there on the side of the mountain, I had already been mentally, physically, and emotionally abused on almost a daily basis by my mom. I had been raped, sexually abused. I had two brushes with death. I thought I was gay. I was an alcoholic and drug abuser and didn't know it. And I wanted out. I thought I was unlovable, that since my own birth mother had given me up, that I was unworthy of love. Today, I stand before you and I'm happy, healthy, whole, full of grace, unconditionally loved. I have joy. I know peace. I've built 4 successful businesses from the ground up. I have over 38 years of sobriety and no mind-altering chemicals. I enjoy my life. It tears my heart every time I hear of a young person committing suicide or another mass shooting. It doesn't have to be that way. Those are people with little or no hope. My name is Julie, and I am the founder of A Life Worth Living online. I'm here to give you hope. And we're going to laugh because how I got through all of this is funny. I would like to share with you this 3-step process of trust, adjust, and assist so that you too can get through whatever you're going through, because I believe you have a life worth living too. And if it's not you, it's someone that you know. So go back to that mountain. I walked up to the dorm. I was in college at the time. I was looking for God. I was taking a class in Japanese art and history. I didn't know who God was. I was at the end of my heavy drinking. I was drinking 15 kamikazes, a couple 7-7s for the road. I'd drink a few beers and smoke a few joints before going into the bars. And that was my evening drinking. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I got through all this. I was going to counseling at the same time. I checked myself into a hospital after trying to sleep out in the snow in a canyon, right? Colorado, Chicago and in Colorado, trying to get away from society. Because it was right after President Reagan got shot in 1981, and he had lived through it. And one of the girls in the dorm said, "Oh, they missed. They didn't kill him." And I thought, what a horrible thing to say. How can you feel that way? I felt like life, the whole, everything had turned upside down. That all the bad guys were out to get the good guys, and the good guys were only a few people that I hung out with and drank with. It was horrible. So I went into the hospital, checked in, was seeing a counselor in town, seeing a counselor at the school. One was dealing with the past, one was dealing with the present, and I wanted out. That weekend, my girlfriend called up from Denver, and I had just come out of the closet in college, and she had taken off, and she called up, and I'm still like wasted from the night before, and so she calls up and she says, "Hey, how you doing?" and everything. I'm like, "Great." And I said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in Denver." I said, "Come back to Durango. I love you. You know, what are you doing there? Come back." She said, "No, I can't do that." I said, "Why not?" She said, "Because I found Jesus." And I'm like, "That's nice. Come back to Durango. I love you. We're a couple. We're together. You know, I miss you. It's been 3 weeks or so." She says, "No, I can't. I found Jesus." I was like, "Fine, bring him too." I wanted to know what he had that I didn't have. So, you know, yeah, bring him. So she was trying to explain to me about Jesus, and she put this other lady on the phone who tried to explain it to me, and I'm still like wasted from the night before. This is like 10:30 Sunday morning, woke me up out of a dead sleep or being passed out, whichever, and was not comprehending what was going on. And they said, "Look," they said, I said, "What is this? What's going on?" And because I wanted to know who stole my girlfriend. And they said, "Here, we met this lady, Valerie, go talk to her. She's she's there in Durango. She's an ex-Hells Angel biker chick, ex-heroin addict." And I'm like, my kind of person, right on. So I called up Valerie, and we met at the Denny's restaurant one night. And I asked her, I said, what's going on? You know, what's Sherry into? Why isn't she here? And she started telling me about how she had met Jesus and how she um, got saved and turned her life over to the Lord, and how that enabled her to have a better life, and how she was able to get away from the biking gang, and she was able to get off heroin. And um, so I told her, I said, well, how do you know who's real? You know, I'd already looked at all these different religions during my time that year in college. And I was like, how do you know who's telling you the truth? You know, I was kind of I was studying Hinduism and Buddhism. I had checked out a Catholic church and some other non-denominational churches in the area and whatnot. And I said, how do you know who's telling you the truth? And, I said, Buddhism, I'm kind of liking that Buddhist guy, who doesn't like a fat, happy guy, I was like, I'm kind of liking that. And she said, I wondered the same thing. And she said, she figured that the Bible is the one of the oldest books in the world. It survived at least 2,000 years, or almost 2,000 years. And she said that until she had given her life to the Lord, the Bible didn't make sense to her. And once she did give her life to the Lord, the Bible started making sense. And she was reading it, and she would go to churches, and she would listen to what the people said, and she would write down the scriptures that they were quoting, and she would go home and check it out. She'd either agree with it, disagree with it, or if she didn't understand or didn't know, she'd put it on a shelf. Then I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I'm like, the thing about Buddhism and Hinduism, though, for me, you got to come back until you get it right. I don't want to come back here. I'm done. This place sucks. No way. And she said, I said, when you go to heaven, I go, do you have to come back or do you get to stay? And she says, we get to stay. I said, sign me up. I'm a one-trip chick. I am not coming back. I went to church that Sunday where she invited me to go. I did give my life to the Lord, got baptized in the Holy Spirit, evidence of speaking in tongues, new creation. Woohoo! Gonna go out and save the world and tell all my friends. So that didn't work out real well. About 3 months later, I went back to Illinois to visit. The ladies at church had told me, don't go out with your old friends and hang out because they will drag you back to what you used to do. So you got to avoid that. Okay, fine. I got this. I got the full armor. Should have put a chastity belt on that full armor. I go out with a guy that I used to do business with in college, and we go up to Great America. He's smoking a joint. Oh, and I hate to smoke alone. Yeah, whatever, I don't do that anymore. You go ahead and smoke. So finally wore me down. I'm like, okay, it's not going to do any harm. I'll have a joint with him. Smoked it, got to the park. It's not open, it's closed because too many people are in and they can't let any more in. Oh, man. Go back to my parents' house. They are out of town. I'm smoking, coming back. I've already started to get high. I add some Tylenol 3 with codeine, I think, and some booze. We wind up in bed where we had never been before, and I'm fertile ground, and I wind up pregnant. Angry with myself. I found out that I was pregnant. I was furious. I called up the lady in Denver and I said, I screwed up. I screwed up. I had the golden ticket and I went out with this guy and I wasn't supposed to, and I did anyway. And I thought I could save him. And I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do. And I said, the devil got me pregnant. And she said, the devil didn't get you pregnant. God gives life. The devil doesn't. Okay. Yeah, right. Great. I'm bringing another human being into this life, into this world that I hate. I was angry with myself and I was angry with God and didn't know what to do. My parents wanted me to abort and I wouldn't do it. I thought if God gives life, then who the hell am I to take it away? So I wound up going back to Denver and I went out there and she let me stay at her place so that I could have the baby and give it up for adoption. I started praying though, because I knew what a screw up I was and how hard, how I had already fallen. And I thought God didn't want to have anything to do with me because I screwed up so badly. I had already gotten the golden ticket. I didn't know grace, didn't know what grace was. So I moved into a house after being with her for a while I was pregnant, and I prayed every day to protect the baby because I knew that I wasn't that good, and I was trying to do controlled drinking and not do any drugs. And I wound up going out with friends again from college, not the brightest thing to do, and wound up just going to go out and have a couple beers, not get drunk, have some water in between the beers, no problem. So no, it was a problem. I wound up coming home drunk every single time. So when I moved out of Pauline's house into another house, they were full of people that were in AA and Al-Anon, and I was angry with the world, angry at everybody, angry at myself, angry at God, angry at the guy, angry at everything and anything. And they said, somebody needs to do an inventory. And I'm like, well, what the heck is an inventory? And so the 3-step process that I show the people that I work with is trust, adjust, and assist. And I didn't think that I was an alcoholic. I was just turned 20 years old. How can you be an alcoholic and just turn 20? My dad was the alcoholic, not me. And Bob sat me down and he said, I'm an alcoholic and I only drank beer. And I'm thinking, lightweight. And he said, my clicker doesn't work. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? My clicker doesn't work. And he said, Donna goes out and she has a couple of beers, has a couple of glasses of wine, 1.5 glasses of wine. And her body starts to get that buzz on and she gets that out of control feeling and her body says, stop, enough. And she stops. And so then he said, my body's different. I start to drink alcohol. And he said, my body screams more. He says, my clicker doesn't work. He said, we're not sick people. We're not bad people getting good. We're sick people getting better. Okay. So, so I was like, okay. So I said, what do I do? And he said, you got to learn who to trust. And so I had to trust God again. And that was very difficult because I thought that I was a dead woman walking. I had to learn how to adjust, allow him to adjust everything inside of me, clean out that anger, clean out the stuff in me. I found out over time that I was a jerk to people, that it wasn't just them being a jerk to me. And then I had to learn, didn't have to, but then I learned how to assist people the right way without putting myself in harm's way and to get out and give what's been given to me. A lot of the women that I've coached and everything, love working with me because we just crack up and I'm so real with them and I'm honest. I don't pull any punches. So my mom had continued to abuse me until the end of my life. And there was other things that I didn't talk about. But one night I was lying in bed and I saw a picture of this little girl and she was standing there just crying, tears streaming down her face. She was so afraid. She had black hair. She had that blue poofy dress with the poof that came out above the knees, those black patent leather shoes and the white lace anklet socks turned over at the ankles. And she was just crying. She looked so afraid and so alone. And I said, Lord, who is that? And he said, it's your mother. I just started bawling, crying. I felt bad for her. I was like, oh my God. I remembered what the counselor had said from years back, that her mom had died when she was age 3 or 4 before she got adopted by her aunt and uncle. And I just cried and I sobbed and I felt bad for her. And all of a sudden these houses just started to lift and they just came off and I was light and I was free. You can have that too. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at Julie Eisenmann on Facebook, or you can reach me at A Life Worth Living Online at Facebook. Thanks, Speakers Pathway, for giving me the opportunity to talk. And you too have a life worth living.